So this is the first page in the notebook that we'll be covering. And so this is my strengths, interests, and values. And what you could do is you could say, girls, please turn to page 7. And we're going to be discovering a little bit about who you are. This activity is designed for you to discover more about yourself, as well as to inspire you to explore careers that may align with your strengths, interests, and values. And so you could have maybe call on one girl. Would anybody like to read that paragraph? I mean, you know, try to make it as interactive as you can, something that you might be familiar with, and then have the students, you'll give them time. So think about what you may have as strengths. What type of strengths might you have? So for example, and you can hit enter. So for example, these might be some strengths. These are just examples I thought of, but you might think you're athletic, or you're a problem solver, or you're funny, brave, compassionate, good at science, organized, etc. So give the girls some time to think about what they're good at and have them list it down. And then ask them to describe how they feel when they are good at something. Now, I do have some things listed here, but I would suggest don't hit that until after you discuss it. So let them talk and say, yeah, I felt the same way. In fact, some things I thought of when I'm good at something, I often feel confident or happy or accomplished when things flow and and things come easy to me. And so this next activity, and you can have the girls share out maybe their top 2 strengths. Like Mary said, you don't have to have the girls share out all their strengths, but just share out like what might be their top 2 in lieu of time. Because remember, we still have a schedule that we need to kind of keep on time for, especially because the build coaches need to cover a lot of material after us. So this is called the Strengths Writing Challenge. I did put some videos here. And you'll have to hit enter twice to have the videos both play. So basically the kids are going to use their dominant hand. I know my sentence is different, but, oh, sorry. I don't know what happened there with the video. But basically it says, use your dominant hand to write the sentence, the wearable tech camp rocks. My video says, I love wearable tech, but it's okay. Encourage the students to use their dominant hand first in the first box, and then their non-dominant hand in the second box. So give them a second to do that. And I encourage you to kind of do this with the students too. And then ask them, if you follow along in the notebook actually says which hand was easier to write with. You know, compare this with learning a new activity. Is learning new things always easy and comfortable? And this goes with what we talked about on Friday, right? With the epic fail. Like sometimes learning new things can make us feel inferior. It can make us feel, I'm just not good at it. Or some of us catch on to new things really quickly. Some of us need more processing time and we need it explained to us in different ways. So we all learn things at different rates, and that's okay. When things feel awkward, like writing with our non-hand, if we practice that every day, eventually it would get easier and easier and easier. And the same is true with the technology that they're going to be learning throughout the week. So this is kind of the overlap between social coach and build coach. And that's what this writing challenge is supposed to be all about. Just letting them know that, hey, sometimes things aren't easy. We might fall or fail the first time, and that's okay. So explain to them that even though it may seem hard, it will get easier. Okay. So then the next part of the notebook is what we call the REASIC. And in this, in the notebook, and you'll see it on the next slide, but they actually have like a little quiz that they're going to take. And so here you could explain that basically the REASIC which stands for Realistic, Investigative, Artistic, Social, Enterprising, and Conventional, is basically categories that were created to help align interests and strengths to specific careers. Basically, to try to align students to what might I be good at. So the RIASIC basically shows 6 major classifications based on occupational interests. And it broadly, I say broadly, categorizes interests based on who people are, their abilities, and what they like to do. So the categories that which someone ranks really high in, we actually call those their dominant interests. And things that they might rank lower in, we call their secondary interests. And so what we're going to do here is, what I would do is maybe even have students read the slides. I might put this, kids always ask, well, what does realistic mean, or what does investigative mean? And so that's why I kind of put this slide here more for your reference. So when kids ask about what that pertains to, you have something to refer to. So you might, as they do this activity, you might actually go back to this slide at the end, just to kind of show them, here, your code was artistic, realistic, and investigative. What does that kind of mean? And I'm thinking that we could always give them links to resources, but have them investigate more of what that means. So basically, this activity is to define students' RIASIC, or more their interests. And so it's a little quiz. And being that it's a slide, I didn't put all the boxes up, but I did copy a few. And so we'll tell the students that in each box to read. So for example, under the realistic box here, they will read the different categories. So fixing a car, using power tools. And basically they will make check marks next to the categories that they feel that they are interested in. So for example, I just kind of put some there. So I marked power tools, animals, sport, camping, and I marked 4 boxes, so my tally's 4. And so this just provides an example to the students of how they do this. And on the next slide, they will do the same thing. And I just kind of marked boxes for investigative, artistic. So encourage the students to go through and mark what they are interested in for each box and to tally. So again, this will be kind of a quiet time for the students. They might take, anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, depending on reading levels and processing levels for the students. So just encourage them to take the time to read and mark and tally. Once they're done, they will basically rank their sections from highest, just their top 3. So for example, mine was investigative, artistic, social. And I just put that up there. You could use it as an example. You could tweak this PowerPoint to be your code. So I encourage you to make it personal about you. And then just ask the students these questions and give them time to fill out in their notebook. And you could do little share ups as well. Any questions on this? And I did on your notes, there's a lot of notes on RIASIC that I wrote for the PowerPoint slides. So you actually have notes on a lot of these slides, but I can also, if you have any questions on a slide, just email me. I can always give you more notes to go off of.
Or WhatsApp her.
Pardon, Mary?
I said, or WhatsApp you. Do it in WhatsApp. WhatsApp.
Oh, yes. Message me in WhatsApp. Yeah, definitely. And so then we're going to go on to my values. This is, again, what's in their notebook. And so you can encourage the kids to read and then answer their values. I put up some examples here of values. And then what maybe some must-haves might be in their future self. You know, what do they want? And this activity is kind of looking at, do our values align with our must-haves? I also, on the PowerPoint slide, put some notes there as well as included an example. So for example, I included like, okay, a future career choice example. Angela has always had a fascination with physics. As a child and teenager, she would read about the great physicists and explore the theories of physics. She also values helping other people. So what might a future career path be for Angela, or what might she want to explore? We don't want to pigeonhole kids like saying, oh, you're realistic, so this is the only career path you can have. We want kids to be, well, I'm realistic, so what kind of possibilities might there be for me out there? And explore. So this activity is all about encouraging exploration of interests and encouraging students to build skills that they might not have otherwise pursued. So any questions on the Civ activity? Okay, Sonara.
I just wanted to know how much time we should spend on it, just because if we go over, or like, I know there's a schedule, so.
So for the Civ, we basically, for this section, we have about a half hour completely. So the part that's going to take the strength part, right, that might take 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, because that one's a little bit easy. Identify what you're good at, identify your strengths, do the handwriting activity. So I would give about 5 to 8 minutes there. The interest part is going to take a little longer for them to read through and check mark. So I might give about 10 minutes there and like 10 minutes for values. And that would be like your full 30 minutes. Does that make sense?
And this part is really,
Yeah, thank you.
this part is really exploring their individual needs much more so than their group needs. So, you know, the amount of sharing, you can limit that if you want, but just so that the girls actually do the activity.
Yeah, and one thing we do want you to do, and I have a blank slide here, because I want you guys to connect it to your team STEMinist. So for example, mine is Hannah Herbst. And so I am going to put some information about Hannah on the slide and say, well, what do you guys think Hannah's strength, interest, and value might be based on what you've researched with her? Because and I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, because one of the engineering design challenge that we want students to do is basically this. We want them to create an IoT-inspired automated hat that represents their strengths, interests, and values, and then showcases an admiration or aspiration inspired by their team STEMinist. So when you're giving them, like having them explore their strength, interests, and values, and then discussing your STEMinist, you want to constantly connect it to, by the end of the week, you're going to be creating this automated hat design that represents who you are. And so, for example, there are some examples that I put here. This is from Qualcomm, from another camp, this video. But these hats were done in a camp that I had led. And so these all showed like the student strength, interests, and values. We didn't have a STEMinist connection. We're doing that with this camp, which I absolutely love. I wish I had done something like that at my camp. But so the kids represented a part of themselves. And so that's the whole point. And their hats are going to have moving parts and, you know, based on the project. So while you're discussing these things with the students, constantly keep in mind that you are prepping them for their final project. So, and we haven't at this point really introduced the automated hat. We want them to be familiar with it. Like, so it's okay to say, hey, you're going to be creating, you know, an automated hat that represents who you are as a person. So what might you want to showcase in yourself? And how might you compare with your team STEMinist? Do you find something that connects with you, something that you admire about her, something you aspire to be? And how could you create a hat based on who you are plus the connections you feel to your team STEMinist? Does that make sense? Okay. So this is like one of the only things I want you to do by Monday is create a page on your STEMinist.